They call themselves spiritual, enlightened, chosen. But behind the chants, robes, and sacred texts lies something much darker. These aren't just religious groups, they're cults. Some of them ended in mass murder, poison, fire, and ritual death. They isolate their followers, manipulate their minds, and feed them terrifying visions of the end of the world. But what happens when those visions don't come true? From gas attacks in Tokyo, to hundreds burned alive in churches, to mass suicides with matching uniforms, these groups didn't just believe in the end. They made it happen. Stay till the end to uncover the top 5 deadliest cults in human history and the horrifying reasons why they turned so many followers into victims. On a quiet morning in 1995, Tokyo commuters boarded the subway as usual, unaware that invisible death had already been released into the air. Within minutes, people began coughing, collapsing. The city fell into chaos. It wasn't a foreign attack. It was the work of a Japanese cult that believed the world had to end. Aum Shinrikyo, which means supreme truth, began in Japan in the 1980s. At first glance, it appeared to be just another spiritual group offering meditation, yoga, and enlightenment. But hidden behind the robes and mantras was something much more sinister. Its leader, Shoko Asahara, was a self-declared messiah who claimed he was the reincarnation of Christ and Buddha combined. His goal was to trigger the apocalypse and rebuild the world under his rule. Shoko Asahara was partially blind and grew up in poverty. But what he lacked in sight, he made up for in manipulation. He studied yoga, fringe religions, and eventually combined elements of Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity. He claimed only Aum followers would survive the coming nuclear Armageddon. And if the world didn't end on its own, Aum would help make it happen. Aum recruited members from Japan's top universities. Many joined the cult because of his attractive speeches and pictures of him levitating in air, which were later found to be fake. They even made their own anime series to recruit young members. Once they joined, they were isolated from their family, demanded full devotion, and took their money. They lived under strict control. Dissents were punished. Escape was nearly impossible. Many rumors about Aum Shinrikyo began to spread around Japan. Many of them were about the cruel tortures done to the members of the cult. Some people tried to ban the cult. Many of them were assassinated. Like Tsutsumi Sakamoto, whose family, including him, disappeared from their apartment after speaking against the cult. In 1990, Ashara became a candidate in the parliamentary election. Despite his hopes, he had a humiliating vote count of just 1,700 votes. Even some cult members hadn't voted for him. Ashara became more violent after this. The cult started building weapons. They developed chemical and biological warfare labs, tested nerve agents, and even tried to develop nuclear weapons. They conducted deadly experiments on animals, and sometimes on their own followers. On March 20th, 1995, Aum Shinrikyo executed its most infamous attack. 5 members boarded Tokyo subway trains during rush hour. They carried plastic bags filled with sarin gas, a colorless, odorless, deadly nerve agent. Using sharpened umbrellas, they punctured the bags and fled. In the chaos that followed, 13 people died and over 6,000 were injured. People collapsed in stations, struggled to breathe, foamed at the mouth. Hospitals were overwhelmed. For hours, the city had no idea what was happening or who was behind it. The attack horrified the world. Soon, Japanese police raided Aum facilities and found what can only be described as a nightmare factory. Inside, they found labs with chemical stockpiles, tunnels and escape routes, torture chambers, and murdered followers buried in secret graves. Shoko Asahara and his top commanders were arrested. In 2018, he and 12 others were executed for their crimes. They believed the next level of existence wasn't heaven or hell. It was a spaceship. And to catch it, they had to leave everything behind. This is the Heaven's Gate. a cult of 39 people who chose death over Earth, convinced that their souls would ascend by shedding their bodies in a mass suicide. Heaven's Gate began with two people, Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Nettles. In the early 1970s, they met and declared themselves more than human. They called themselves the Two, claiming they were the first in a line of spiritual messengers guiding humanity to a higher evolutionary level. They taught that most humans were trapped in a lowly vehicle, the human body, and that true life awaited beyond it. They believed there was an evolutionary next step, a non-physical existence aboard an extraterrestrial spacecraft following behind the Hale-Bopp comet. They rebranded themselves as Heaven's Gate, and their message was simple: to ascend, you had to leave your earthly attachments, your identity, and eventually, your body. They quietly recruited people who were spiritually unsatisfied or searching for meaning beyond the material world. Members were taught to give up romantic relationships, cut ties with family, change their names to spacey names, follow strict routines of self-discipline. They lived together in group houses. They adopted a uniform of plain clothing, often matching, and later an unusual addition: Nike shoes, because they considered them as a cosmic symbol. They believed Earth was about to be recycled, and the only way to survive was to ascend together. Applewhite taught that death was not an end, but a departure, a shedding of the physical suit to board the spacecraft. When Bonnie Nettles died of cancer in 1985, her death became a sacred proof that the physical was disposable. In 1996 and early 1997, the Hale-Bopp comet streaked across the sky. Heaven's Gate members believed a spaceship was hiding behind the comet, coming to take them to the next level. They interpreted the comet's arrival as the signal, their opportunity to leave Earth. They wrote farewell letters. They recorded video testimonies. They chose matching black clothing and newly purchased Nike sneakers. They drank a cocktail of phenobarbital mixed with applesauce and vodka, then placed plastic bags over their heads to ensure death by not having enough oxygen to the body. Their bodies were posed neatly, covered with purple shrouds. They were found days later, dressed uniformly, and identification tags. They left a carefully written statement telling that they were not dead. They had simply exited their vehicles to board the spacecraft that was trailing the comet. The media labeled it a mass suicide, but for Heaven's Gate members, it was exactly what they had been preparing for decades: the final step in a cosmic journey. Imagine moving to a remote jungle, hoping to build a paradise, only to drink poison with your family because your leader told you to. This is what happened to People's Temple, the cult that ended with over 900 people dead, most of them by suicide, others murdered, and all under the spell of one man, Jim Jones. This is how a church turned into one of the deadliest cults in history. The People's Temple began in the 1950s as a Christian church with a twist. It preached equality, racial integration, and social justice. At first, it helped the poor, adopted children of all races, and ran free meal programs. But beneath the surface, it wasn't about God. It was about Jim Jones, a charismatic preacher who believed he was God. Jim Jones was born in 1931 in Indiana. From his young age, he was obsessed with death, power, and control. In public, he was a civil rights hero. He told followers that America was doomed by racism, capitalism, and nuclear war. The only escape? Follow him to a new world. The People's Temple attracted people who believed in change, justice, and equality. Most followers were working-class families, elderly Black Americans seeking safety, and young activists tired of racism and war. They joined for community and slowly lost their freedom. Jones controlled where they lived, who they married, what they ate, and what they believed. They had to call him Father. By the mid-70s, media and ex-members started exposing Jones's abuse. He panicked and moved his followers to the jungle of Guyana in South America. He called it Jonestown, a socialist utopia far from U.S. laws. But paradise quickly turned into a prison. Followers worked long hours in heat, ate barely anything, and were surrounded by armed guards. Escape was nearly impossible. Punishments included public beatings, isolation pits, and even injections. Jones would hold white nights, mass suicide rehearsals, to test loyalty. He told them, "If we can't live in peace, we'll die in peace." In 1978, U.S. Congressman Leo Ryan flew to Jonestown to investigate reports of abuse. At first, Jonestown looked like paradise, but during his visit, several members begged to leave with him. As Ryan's group prepared to fly out, Jones gave the order. A hit squad ambushed them at the airstrip. Congressman Ryan, 3 journalists, and a defector were gunned down. After the murders, Jones told his followers, "The time has come. Don't be afraid to die." He had barrels of grape-flavored drink laced with cyanide, Valium, and sedatives. Mothers were forced to poison their children first, then themselves. Some were injected, others were shot trying to escape. In under an hour, over 900 people were dead, including 276 children. It was the largest mass suicide in modern history and the deadliest single loss of American civilian life before 9/11. Photos of hundreds of bodies, face down in rows, shocked the world. Jim Jones was found dead from a gunshot to the head, but the scars he left behind remain. In a remote village in Uganda, hundreds of men, women, and children gathered inside a church. They sang hymns, prayed, and waited for salvation. But instead, the doors were locked, the windows were nailed shut, and soon, the building was in flames. This is the terrifying story of the 10 Commandments of God cult. The cult was founded in the late 1980s in Uganda by a group of self-proclaimed prophets. They claimed that the world was about to end, and only those who obeyed the 10 Commandments of the God would be saved. They called themselves the Movement for the Restoration of the 10 Commandments of God. The cult thrived in a country torn by poverty, war, and disease. People desperately seeking hope and order found it in the movement's strict rules. Even talking was forbidden, because too many words, they said, could lead to breaking the commandments. Leaders predicted that the world would end on January 1st, 2000. They promised that the faithful would be the only survivors of the apocalypse. As the year 2000 approached, thousands of followers sold their land, donated money, and waited for the final day. When January 1st came and went, the apocalypse didn't arrive. Tension spread. Members started questioning the leaders. Some demanded their money back. Others threatened to leave. For the leaders, this was dangerous. Their power and their wealth was collapsing. So they devised a deadly plan. On March 17, 2000, the cult gathered over 500 followers into their church in the village of Kanungu. A giant feast was served. Prayers filled the building. Windows and doors were sealed shut to keep out evil. Then, the church was set on fire. Inside, hundreds were trapped. Smoke filled the air. No one survived. As police investigated, they realized that this wasn't just a suicide. It was a mass murder. They uncovered mass graves across Uganda containing hundreds of bodies. Over 900 people were found dead. Many had been poisoned, stabbed, or strangled before being buried. Others died in the fire. The leaders of the cult vanished. Comment down other deadly cults, and don't forget to subscribe and check my latest videos.